A single mistake brought Mira Chen to Westfield Academy's doorstep. Now surrounded by musical prodigies and old money, she keeps her head down and her talent hidden. But when the school's star performer falls ill before the governor's gala, Mira must choose, remain invisible or reveal what she's buried for years. Some secrets aren't meant to stay silent. Before we dive into the story, comment below where in the world you're watching from. Rain pelted against the windshield as Mira Chen squinted at the imposing gates of Westfield Academy. Gothic spires stabbed at the stormy sky, a world away from her cramped apartment in Queens. She clutched her scholarship letter, now wrinkled, from constant folding and unfolding. "You sure about this?" her father asked, his calloused hands tight on the steering wheel. Mira nodded, though her stomach churned. "It's the best music conservatory prep school in the country." What she didn't say, it was her only option after what happened at Juilliard's pre-college program. Walking through Westfield's marble hallway, Mira felt impossibly small. Students moved with practiced grace, designer bags slung over shoulders, conversing in hushed tones about summer homes and family connections. "You must be Miss Chen," a crisp voice cut through her thoughts. Dean Reynolds stood before her, immaculate in a tailored suit. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Your scholarship is unprecedented. We don't usually accept transfer students mid-semester." Mira swallowed. "I'm grateful for the opportunity. Indeed, though I understand you'll focus on music theory and composition, not performance." "Yes, ma'am." "Curious choice for someone with your background." The dean's gaze flickered to Mira's worn backpack. "Well, Westfield rewards excellence. I trust you'll prove yourself worthy." As the dean walked away, Mira exhaled slowly. No one here knew about Juilliard, about the panic attack that had paralyzed her fingers mid-recital, about the whispers afterward that perhaps Ming Chen's daughter wasn't the prodigy everyone thought. She'd come to Westfield to disappear into theory books, to rebuild herself away from the piano that had been both her salvation and destruction. First day, a lanky boy with kind eyes gestured to the schedule clutched in her hand. "That obvious?" "Only to fellow scholarship kids," he grinned, extending his hand. "I'm Eli, jazz saxophone and perpetually lost. Mira, theory and composition." "Really? No performance track?" Mira's fingers twitched. "Not anymore." "Well, just warning you. Theory puts you directly in Calloway's path." "Calloway?" Eli winced. Sebastian Calloway, composition prodigy, conductor in training and heir to the Calloway Foundation. Basically royalty around here. As if summoned, the crowd parted, and Mira caught her first glimpse of Sebastian Calloway, tall, golden-haired, moving with the assurance of someone who'd never questioned his place in the world. "And that's Veronica Winters," Eli whispered, as a willowy girl with perfect posture fell into step beside Sebastian. "Piano virtuoso. They're practically Westfield's royal couple." Veronica's laugh echoed across the hall. Musical, practiced, cutting. Mira tightened her grip on her backpack. Good to know who to avoid. "Interval identification should be basic for anyone in this room," Professor Garrett announced, pacing before the whiteboard. "Miss Chen, since you're new, perhaps you'd like to demonstrate?" Mira froze. 20 pairs of eyes turned toward her, including Sebastian Calloway's steel blue gaze from the front row. The professor played a complex chord progression, dissonant and challenging. "The intervals, Miss Chen?" Mira heard them perfectly, augmented. 4th minor 6th, major 7th, diminished 5th, but hesitated, remembering her father's warning. "Don't draw attention, don't show off. I'm sorry, I'm not sure." Sebastian raised an eyebrow, exchanging glances with Veronica. "Disappointing," the professor sighed. "Mr. Calloway." Sebastian rattled off the answer flawlessly, adding, "It's Scriabin's mystic chord with an interesting variation in the upper register." "Excellent. Perhaps Miss Chen could benefit from some remedial sessions." Heat crept up Mira's neck as titters rippled through the classroom. After class, Sebastian lingered by her desk. "Theory placement is Thursday. You might want to reconsider your major if intervals give you trouble." His tone wasn't cruel, almost concerned, which somehow made it worse. "I'll manage," Mira muttered, "just trying to help. Westfield isn't kind to those who can't keep up." Mira watched him leave, Veronica instantly at his side, whispering something that made them both glance back at her, if they only knew. Once, she'd been able to identify any note played within a hundredth of a hertz, but that was before. The practice rooms at Westfield were nothing like the cramped closets at her old school. Each contained a Steinway grand acoustic paneling and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking manicured gardens. Mira chose the most isolated room, setting up her theory books. She had no intention of touching the piano, but as twilight fell and the hallways emptied, her fingers itched with memory. Just once, she thought, no one would hear. She placed her hands on the keys without pressing down, feeling the cool ivory beneath her fingertips. Then, barely touching the keys, she silently traced Bach's invention number 13, muscle memory guiding each movement. You know that's not how pianos work, right? Mira jerked away from the keyboard. Sebastian Calloway leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. I was just air practicing. That's new. Shame burned through her. I was working through a theory, problem physically. In perfect hand position for Bach, his eyes narrowed. You're a pianist. Was, Mira corrected, gathering her books. Excuse me, Sebastian blocked the doorway. Why lie about it? I didn't lie. I'm here for theory and composition. But you've clearly had classical training, advanced training. Mira pushed past him. It doesn't matter anymore. It matters if you're intentionally tanking in class, Sebastian called after her. That scholarship could have gone to someone who actually wants to be here. Mira hurried down the hall, his words stinging because they hit a truth she'd been avoiding. She was taking someone else's place, someone who wouldn't freeze when asked to perform. Her humiliation was complete when she heard Veronica's voice. Around the corner, Seb's right. I looked her up, she had some sort of meltdown at Juilliard last year, complete train wreck during a Liszt concerto. Mira pressed herself against the wall, pulse racing. Poor thing, another voice replied. Though really, if you can't handle pressure, why pursue music at all? Their laughter followed Mira all the way back to her dorm room, the annual Governor's DE. Gala was Westfield's most prestigious event. Politicians, donors, and music industry elites gathered to hear the school's top performers, and scholarships were often offered on the spot. Everyone performs, Eli explained during lunch. Even theory students, usually just ensemble work, but still. Mira's appetite vanished. Everyone? Don't panic. Theory kids usually just do choir or percussion, nothing solo. Relief flooded through her until Dean Reynolds approached their table. Miss Chen, a word? In the hallway, the dean's expression was grave. We have a situation. Veronica Winters has been hospitalized with severe tonsillitis. She won't recover in time for the gala. That's unfortunate, Mira said carefully. Indeed, especially as she was to perform Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2 with our orchestra. Sebastian will conduct, but we need a soloist. Mira's blood ran cold. Surely there are other pianists. None prepared for this piece, the dean cut in. However, I've been informed you've performed it before. Who told her? That was a long time ago. Professor Garrett seems to think you're hiding your abilities. He noticed your finger movements during ear training. Perfect pianist's hands, he said. Mira's heart hammered. I can't perform. Can't or won't, Miss Chen? The dean's voice hardened. Your scholarship is provisional. The board expects all students to contribute to school events. Please, you have until Thursday to decide. Either you play or we'll need to reevaluate your place here. As the dean walked away, Sebastian approached, concern etched across his features. I heard. I'm sorry. Anger flared in Mira's chest. Did you tell them about seeing me in the practice room? His eyes widened. No, but then it was Veronica. Great. She's really sick, Mira. This isn't some ploy. Easy for you to say. You're not the one being forced to perform. Sebastian's expression hardened. No one's forcing you, but someone needs to play, and apparently you can. Westfield doesn't protect people who hide their gifts. You don't understand. Then explain it to me, he challenged. Why would someone with your talent choose to hide in theory books? The hallway seemed to close in around her. Because talent isn't enough when your brain betrays you. Because sometimes the music just stops. Sebastian's face softened. The panic attack at Juilliard, Mira froze. You knew? I looked you up after seeing you in the practice room. You were brilliant until I wasn't, she finished bitterly. Now you understand why I can't do it. Maybe you can't, Sebastian agreed, his voice quiet. Or maybe you're the only one who can. The night of the gala arrived with brutal speed. Mira stood backstage, her borrowed gown too tight around her ribs, each breath a conscious effort. 5 minutes, the stage manager announced. Mira's hands shook. After 3 sleepless nights, she'd made her decision. She would play. Not for the scholarship, not for Westfield, but because somewhere beneath the fear she missed the piano with an ache that wouldn't fade. Sebastian appeared beside her in his conductor's tails, hair swept back, the picture of confidence. You ready? No, she admitted, but I'm going to try. He studied her face. You know this piece better than anyone. I've heard recordings of you playing it 2 years ago. That was before. Before doesn't matter, he interrupted. This is now, just you and... The piano. The stage manager motioned them forward. Sebastian squeezed her shoulder once, then took his place at the podium. Mira walked to the gleaming grand piano, the spotlight blinding, hundreds of faces a blur. She sat, adjusting the bench, and placed her hands on the keys. Silence stretched. Her mind went blank. I can't do this. Then, from the corner of her eye, she saw Eli give her a thumbs up from the saxophone section. Sebastian stood ready, his expression not of doubt but certainty. Mira closed her eyes, found the first chord and nodded. Sebastian's downbeat fell, and the orchestra began the dark, swelling introduction. When Mira's entrance came, her fingers moved as if independent from her racing thoughts. The first notes were tentative, almost quiet, but as the familiar melody unfolded beneath her hands, something shifted. Each phrase breathed with new life, informed by the very anxiety that had silenced her for so long. By the second movement, Mira was no longer at Westfield. She existed solely in the space between notes, in the conversation between piano and orchestra. Her body remembered what her mind had tried to forget, that music wasn't about perfection but connection. The familiar tightness in her chest transformed from panic to power. When the final movement erupted, Mira's playing became fearless, technicolor. She leaned into the dissonances, stretched the tempos, found new voices in passages she'd played 100 times before. Sebastian matched her every impulse, the orchestra responding to their combined energy. In their shared crescendos was an unspoken understanding. This was what music was meant to be. As the final chords thundered to a close, Mira's hands lifted from the keys, suspended in the moment before reality rushed back in. Silence. Then, an explosion of sound as the audience rose to their feet. Mira blinked against the lights, disoriented by the roar of applause. Sebastian extended his hand, helping her to her feet. His eyes shone with something she couldn't quite name. "Told you," he murmured, barely audible above the applause. In the front row, Dean Reynolds stood slack-jawed. Professor Garrett was wiping his eyes, and there, her father, somehow present, tears streaming down his weathered face. Mira's legs trembled as she bowed. The ovation continued, washing over her in waves of validation she'd convinced herself she'd never feel again. Phenomenal. Simply phenomenal. The governor pumped Mira's hand at the reception. "Where have you been hiding this young lady, Reynolds?" The Dean managed a tight smile. "Miss Chen has been focused on theory until now." "Theory? With those hands? Criminal." He turned to Mira. "You must speak with Maestro Gonzalez. He's looking for soloists for the summer concert series." As the governor moved on, Mira found herself surrounded by conservatory directors, foundation heads and industry professionals, all pressing cards into her hands, all asking the same question: "Will you play for us?" Across the room, Sebastian watched, a complicated expression on his face. Mira excused herself and approached him. "Not exactly the soloist you expected, was I?" "No," he admitted. "You were better." Heat crept up her cheeks. "I wouldn't have done it without your push. I didn't push, I just refused to let you hide." He hesitated. "Why did you hide, I mean? Even after knowing how good you are?" Mira considered the question. Fear, not just of failing again, but of succeeding and then losing it all anyway. And now? Now I know the music doesn't disappear. Even when I can't hear it, it's still there. Waiting. Sebastian nodded slowly. The Rachmaninoff competition is next month. You should enter. Are you? Conducting category, yes. Then as your rival, I should probably start practicing. Mira smiled, surprising herself with the ease of it. Sebastian's answering smile transformed his face, stripping away the arrogance she'd first seen. As your rival, I look forward to... 3 months later, Mira's fingers danced over the keys, the practice room alive with Prokofiev's third concerto. When she finished, applause startled her from her focus. Eli leaned against the doorframe, grinning. Save some talent for the rest of us, would you? Mira laughed, stretching her hands. You're one to talk. I heard about your jazz festival win. Small potatoes compared to your silver medal at the Rachmaninoff competition. Eli dropped into a chair. Though I still think you were robbed. Should have been gold. Silver's more than enough. Besides, Sebastian got gold in conducting, so Westfield's honor is intact. Speaking of the golden boy, he's looking for you. Something about a duo application? Mira gathered her scores. The Salzburg Festival, we're preparing a piano concerto with him conducting. From theory student to international festivals in 1 semester. Not bad, Chen. Still terrified every time, she admitted. But that's the point, isn't it? The fear means it matters. Walking across Westfield's campus toward the conducting hall, Mira passed the practice room where she'd first been caught pretending to play. Now, students nodded, in recognition as she passed. Not with the awe they reserved for Sebastian or the returning Veronica, but with respect. Sebastian stood at a podium, marking a score, sunlight turning his hair to gold. He looked up as she entered, his serious expression breaking into a smile. There. You are. I've been thinking about the cadenza in the third movement. Mira set down her bag. Let me guess. 2 rubato? Actually, not rubato enough. You're still playing safe sometimes. Old habits. Break them, he challenged, eyes bright. They'll follow wherever you go. She sat at the piano, considering. Even if I get lost again? Especially then. Sebastian stepped down from the podium, coming to stand beside the piano. The getting lost part is where the music happens, Mira struck, a chord letting it resonate. I spent so long being afraid of who I was, I forgot how to just be. And now? She looked up at him, then at her hands on the keys. Now I know that hiding your gift doesn't protect you. It just leaves the world a little quieter than it should be. Sebastian nodded, returning to the podium and raising his baton. From the beginning? Mira poised her hands over the keys, the fear, still there but now familiar, almost a friend. From the beginning.